Hey, let's do a question here. This is a fun one and it's topical. Mike Whitaker wants to know, from a fan's point of view, who would you like to see Cena face in his last match, John? I'd like for him to turn back face and have him face the Rock. The storyline where the Rock is the one who wanted to ruin wrestling and Cena turned his back on him. I don't know if that's the plan, John, but if you were booking it as a fan, who would you want John Cena's last match to be against?
I think one of two people. Actually, one of three people. So I love these memes on the internet about fighting 100 gorillas. And the gorilla after fighting 99 is all cocky, and then all of a sudden Brock Lesnar walks out, and the gorilla's like like Stone Cold in the Royal Rumble when Bret Hart came out, like Macaulay Culkin, at Home Alone, or when he shaved his face. So I think Brock would be awesome. I also think Roman would be awesome. I think both those would be incredible matches. But I think The Rock would – that's kind of it, because The Rock kind of helped him turn heel. The Rock had done so much. And, plus, the Rock's the biggest movie star in the freaking world. I guess maybe the biggest star in the world. I don't know who's a bigger star than The Rock, but I think The Rock would be great.
If you were to think about, once upon a time when you had – a guy go out on his shield, you were trying to pay it forward to the next generation.
Oh,
maybe most memorably a few years ago, Kurt Angle had his last match and Vince wanted him to wrestle Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, Baron's no longer with WWE. I don't think that worked out the way Vince or Baron or Kurt probably wished it would have. But if they were to elect to go with not a more established legacy star like a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar or The Rock, but someone who was on the rise out of this new generation in the WWE in 2025. Does anybody stand out as a potential torchbearer to be the next John Cena, or not necessarily the next John Cena, but the next version of themselves, the next top guy for WWE?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because if I'm not sure what they're thinking, but that's the old wrestling mindset. You don't go out with a victory. Tony St. Clair in his great retirement match brought Finley over, and Finley was in retirement, and Tony still wouldn't go out as a winner. These old guys that have respect for the business, they always go out putting somebody over. Not always, but nearly always. And Cena's like that. I would, if I'm a gambling man, which I am, I would gamble Cena put somebody over in his last match. And there's I don't know if I had a lot of choices. I'd love to hear your choices, but Jacob Fatu to me, I think would be a great choice, because I don't think people would expect it, and I think the match would be freaking amazing. And the reason I say that, one of the greatest matches I ever saw, I think it was San Antonio when Cena wrestled Umaga, and to this day, that was one of the greatest things I ever saw. I got the chance to sit there. I wasn't calling the match, but I was sitting at the commentary table, and I just took my headphones off, and I thought, man, I'm just going to enjoy this. And I remember watching that and thinking, this is why people love this business. And I just sat there at ringside, and I had the best seat in the house. Just sat there and just watched the match. I mean, like a little kid. It was so fun to watch. I think he and Jacob Fatu could do that. I think Jey Uso would be good.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a great name.
So I think there's a couple choices. I don't know who they have in the pipeline that they really want to build up. Cena's a great talent scout. And I bet you he has an idea I bet Cena has an idea. If you pull John aside, because he's a really smart guy, and if you pulled him aside and said, okay, create a legacy bout, he would know. There was The Rock or Brock or whoever. Create just a great match. He would know. Or create a match where you're going to put somebody over. And then a fourth one, create a match you're going to put somebody over that nobody expects. I guarantee you he has all four names.
Well, listen, if we're talking about what I think the next generation of WWE would be, and if you were looking at it from an old school perspective, I might try to find a way to have it be John Cena passing the torch to Braun Breaker. But who do I think it will be? I think it'll be Logan Paul. He's been teaming with Logan Paul.
Conrad, that's a great call.
Yeah.
That's a great call. The people would, oh my God, people would be furious about that.
Yeah, if he's the guy who retires John Cena, it's mega heat for Logan Paul.
Brilliant.
It gives him something to talk about in all of his media.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I think that's the answer. But I could be wrong.
And you have Logan Paul going on all these shows talking about retiring John Cena. He would make so much hay out of that. You would get more out of that than anything you could possibly do.
just like for a year or maybe longer, Paul Heyman would be out there introducing Brock Lesnar as the one in the Undertaker's 21-1. Well, you just have Logan Paul do that in eternity, and every now and again, John Cena shows up and makes his life miserable. And I don't know, it just feels like it's a fit.
I don't know if it's just natural to Logan Paul to be able to talk like he does, or if it's actually he thinks about it, and plans it. But he is good. I mean, he's good at everything he does. I love the stuff he does. And when he gets on a rant and starts bashing people, I mean, he's a real heel. And not necessarily a heel, he's an attraction. That, I think more importantly, he's an attraction. And he does a great job with it. Giving him that ace card to put in his pocket, man, that would be huge. And the only way you could do that, you got to put the world title on Logan Paul within a year or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's inevitable. I do think they're going to do that at some point.
I do too. And I think it's going to be a great decision.
Superman Trick Shots says, love the podcast. John, last time you mentioned about pool colors and having issues with the 5-ball color. What is your thoughts on the different shapes and the different ball sets? And are you a pool shark?
Wait a minute. Wait, my thoughts on different colors and different ball sets. There aren't different ball sets, are there? No, there's not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are. Like in terms of, you could get like a themed, you could get like an, Alabama Crimson Tide ball.
Of course. Oh, I love that kind of stuff. I love going like down to Alabama and somebody have a Roll Tide pool table. I love it. I love insignias on the pool table. I just saw somebody who had one. Who was it? It was Luke Gallows? I can't remember who it was. Somebody had a really cool pool table and had their insignia on it. I thought, man, that's awesome.
Is cool. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I used to be pretty good at pool. I had a pool table in my house. I'm not good on a 4x8 pool table because I only played a 3x6 because I couldn't afford a 4x8, and nobody had a 4x8. You go into the arcades and casinos to gamble, and play pool. It was always a 3x6 table. So the angles are a little bit different on a 4x8. I'm not very good on a 4x8, but I used to be pretty good on a 3x6. I tell you who's an absolute pool shark is Bob Orton Jr.
Wow,
that guy is world-class level, or he was. I mean, literally, he's Minnesota Fats level. I don't know if anybody remembers Minnesota Fats, but he's Minnesota Fats level. I played a game against who was the guy that did the Bud Light commercial? It wasn't Minnesota Fats, was it? Was it Willie Mosconi?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
I think it was whoever did the Bud Light commercial. If I get the name wrong, just understand it. If it wasn't Willie Mosconi. I played a game against him one time in front of like 400 people. And I realized what he was doing. It was so freaking cool. He never missed a shot, but he would leave the cue ball where he didn't have a second shot. He's throwing the game for me. This is a world champion, one of the greatest pool players of all time. He was selling pool cues. I was doing it because they were selling pool cues of like Undertaker and Bret Hart and people.
Oh, I see.
Things like that. So he had all this merchandise he wanted to sell. So he wanted to play me, and he knew I was, pretty good. Not in his level. I mean, it's like the difference between a national level wrestler and a gold medalist. There's no comparison. One's pretty good, one's best in the world. He was the best in the world. He could do anything. So I'm sitting there watching him, and I realized he's throwing the game. No one else does. And I said, hey, man, why don't you just run the table? I said, people want to see you run the table. He goes, kid, they're all here to see you. And he goes, just make it. I said, I'm too nervous to make it. But it was awesome. He threw the game for me. I beat, I think it was Willie Mosconi. It was the guy who made the Bud Light commercial. People can look it up and correct me. But what a wonderful guy. And it took me about 3 or 4 shots to realize he was throwing the game. And the way he did it was so cool. He would make a hard shot, but then he would leave the cue ball where he had no other shot. And then he would just miss. I mean, like just miss. It just hit the edge of the corner, and the cue ball would line up perfectly to set me up for the next ball. And that's how he was throwing the game. You couldn't tell he was doing it. It was amazing.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment, and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to savewithconrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to savewithconrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at savewithconrad.com. Shoot me an email at conrad@savewithconrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at savewithconrad.com.